questions, Coach Corbin.
How did you evaluate Austin Nye today?
He was solid. I think the second inning was a little stressful, but he got out of it. So I think he had taken into consideration just the time that he's been out on the mound. He hasn't gotten a lot of mound time, and the time that he does, it's usually he hasn't gone past a third inning. So we keep him in micro doses, but I think he'll continue to get better as he goes.
Was he throwing 4 pitches today or 3?
It's probably a 4th, just because the couple of breaking balls and the fastball and the change.
I mean, he was able to land a lot of his off-speed stuff or get close, and it looked like it was a tight zone. I mean, how hard is that for a kid to do that's missed the time that he's missed?
Well, I think that's the growth, but that's also why we recruited him, was because he could do that. He could manipulate the baseball at a very young age, especially the changeup. But the fact that he can throw those pitches and command them is good. He's got some maturity. I think he's a hard evaluator on himself, so he probably would look at that performance as just being average, but he's a kid that will continue to get better.
What's the key to bringing a guy back from who had Tommy John and hadn't seen mound time for so long before he got games here?
Just really monitoring the volume and the stress of the pitches, I think, more than anything else. And his games have been, I'm not going to say less stressful, but the games have been, he starts the game, so there's always stress at the beginning of the game. But I just think keeping the dose of the pitches down as much as possible and giving him proper time to get back.
Were Jacob Humphrey and Levi Huseman injured when they came out of the game?
Hump was kind of limping around a little bit, and he was on Sunday too, so we just wanted to get him off his feet. Huseman was more of a just wanted to get Brian into the game.
Yeah. Is Levi a lefty on lefty guy, or can you stretch him out into more things?
Well, I think he can do several things. I mean, he's got good stuff, and his last 2 outings have been pretty crisp.
I know this guy's a unicorn, but are there any similarities with Brian Miller when he was here and Connor Fennell? I know it's the arm angle with Brian was lower, and again, he was a unicorn, but is there anything that you see maybe in Brian with Connor?
Yeah, it's a good comp. You're right, the slots a tick higher, but in terms of how they work, how they execute, how they throw, they're just able to execute their pitches. And Connor's a quick worker. I like him, and he wants the baseball. He wants the baseball. He's a very competitive young man, but he continues to, every time we put him out there, he just continues to do his job.
What do you want to? What do you want to see from the team this weekend? Heading to Auburn and into SEC play.
Just compete well. More than anything, just compete well. Get the opportunity to start a season on the road, and played a couple of road series already, which I'm sure can help, but just compete well.
Back to Connor, I know you have a lot of arms that you wanted to use early. Are you able to stretch him out and use him more like you use Brian frequently and longer outings, things like that?
We'll see, but I think so. I mean, he probably would want that. He probably wants to get out there, but I think right now with the way we're using our staff, it's very team-oriented. We're just linking up innings and just asking people to do their job. This time of year probably bodes well. We'll see what it looks like, though, once we get inside of a conference, because obviously the weekend against Xavier looked a little bit different. You had guys that were getting a decent amount of the volume out of the bullpen.
How good is it to have so many different pitchers who can contribute out of the bullpen who give kind of different looks?
It's helpful. It's helpful. I mean, when you go through a lineup once and second time, you better be armed with something if you're that type of pitcher, and if you're not, then you got to go to the garage and pull out another arm, and we've been able to do that. So we like it. We like it because it's left, right, left, right, left, right. That's good. We've got some balance on the pitching staff, and we've got kids that are throwing strikes and want to pitch, and that's helpful.
You're about to see lineups that are putting up run totals we've never seen in this league. How prepared are your guys to pitch to that, and do you pitch SEC games any differently with the pinball scores?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we just got to get in there and and execute and pitch. I think if we're executing, potentially to minimize damage, but I think having been in this league for a long period of time, you recognize that 1 through 9 is really, there's not much separation between hitters. You know, one could be hitting in the 1 hole one day and 9 hole in the other, so it's just you got to get 27 outs as quickly as possible and limit your gifts, whether it's walks or mistakes on the field.
Last one for me. Is it to the point where you feel like if you give up 5 or 6 runs against a good team, that's a good outing anymore?
I don't know. I don't want to think that way, but I think offensively, I guess the SEC top last year averaged 9 runs a game. That was Georgia, and then you had Tennessee right behind them, and you had Texas A&M right behind them. So I think it was 9 and 8 and 8. So, yeah, I mean, I just think doing a good job to minimize damage as much as possible. I mean, regardless of how good the hitting teams are, and I know the scoreboard can be changed real quickly with a swing, I think the key is just not adding to that. And, you know, if the team's going to do damage, they're going to have to link up hit by hit by hit by hit. And that can be done, but at the same time, you just don't want to add to that. So, yeah, I just think minimizing damage on your end is helpful to your team, containing the opposition.
Anything else, guys?
I guess along the lines of the bullpen, how much has the sophomore class helped you, and how much did it help them being there last year and kind of being thrown into the fire?
Yeah, Ari asked me that on Sunday, and I just think it's helpful. It's just experience. It's just guys that have that experience, and they pitch with a better heartbeat than previously. They got postseason action in the short amount of time we were at Clemson. They got to pitch, but a lot of them got to pitch in the SEC tournament. So, yeah, I think it's very helpful. There's a lot of bodies that are sophomore oriented, and then you got a couple of freshmen that are pitching too. Barton didn't get out there tonight, but you've got some kids that are capable there too. So they'll be used. They'll be used. And now with you can play 30 people in the SEC now. We went from 27 to 30, so that opens up the potential of more arms. So I like that. I like that for the group. It means development in the SEC, and that's helpful. If it was 27, it's less the development. And I think as you're moving forward and as these rosters change, you need to figure out who can do what.
I do have a follow-up on that. How many pitchers do you think you traveled this weekend?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. We've traveled 12 to 13 last year, so I'm sure that number we could exceed that number potentially.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.